Alright, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is Scientists Finally Discover UFO Evidence the Pentagon is Hiding from Us. Let's check it out. Listen, I'm here for all of this information. I just hope that it can be backed up. But let's go.
UFOs exist. The U.S. government found quite a number of them.
She said UFOs exist and the U.S. government has found quite a number of them. I know that the U.S. government no longer calls them UFOs because the world has basically messed up the name, right? I think they call them UAPs now, actually. So the U.S. government is not going to be talking about a UFO because UFOs are basically science fiction now. UAP. Or something like that, guys.
Numerous alien races and intergalactic
this unknown aerial phenomenon
wars have been introduced to our galaxy by science fiction. However, we have not encountered even the most primitive alien life form, let alone one with advanced technology, in the real world.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I still think tardigrades are not from Earth. All right, the water bears that are in like everything, your backyard, everywhere. Just they can survive in space, etc., etc. I don't know. I don't think that they're from Earth, guys. I'm sorry.
Why is that so? One theory holds that habitable planets are few and far between, and that intelligent life is an oddity. It's also possible that more technologically advanced societies exist, but they're too far away for us to ever make contact with them. But what if extraterrestrial life is prevalent throughout the galaxy, and we've been kept out of the neighborhood party on purpose? What is the Pentagon trying to conceal from us? Is anything wrong? Or are we really the only ones in the universe? Let's find out.
Let's go. Let's theorize.
It would appear that several unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP sightings, have been reported over the past few years. The public at large simply doesn't know too much about them. The government has categorically denied any reports of UFOs or flying saucers in our skies for decades. Not until very recently, though. Okay. So what shifted? The United States government established the Secret Aerospace Threat Identification Program in the Pentagon in 2007. The program's goal was to compile and analyze data on UFO sightings reported to the Defense Department by service members over the years. Luis Elizondo, who had managed military operations for 20 years, joined the endeavor in 2008. He was chosen to head the program in 2010 and honed its emphasis on national security. He received reports of UAP sightings and investigated them thoroughly. One obscure report about a bizarre tic-tac-shaped object above the Pacific Ocean made by 2 retired U.S. military personnel drew his attention.
I'm gonna be honest, like when it comes to the people saying that they have seen something, I am much more likely to believe it if they come from someone like these guys, right? Like if you're a soldier, you're any type of soldier or like a pilot, I'm going to go ahead and probably think that you guys are telling the truth. More so than, I don't know, Bobby Joe on his farm, if that makes any sense, guys. I'm going to believe it much more because these guys are in the air. They are generally like extremely strict with their thought also, guys. They just are not going to be making things up like that, guys, right? Personally. All right, let's get it.
Navy aviators.
Let's do it like this.
The Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was conducting training exercises with Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich. Radar from a ship that was a member of the training group had discovered multiple anomalous aerial vehicles on the horizon that were falling 80,000 feet in less than a second. With a weapons system officer in the back seat of each aircraft, Fravor and Dietrich were dispatched to investigate in separate planes. As they got closer, they could make out a churning pool of water roughly the size of a Boeing 737. The tic-tac-shaped object was hovering above it, according to Dietrich, and it was making no predictable movement, no predictable trajectory. There were no logos, wings, or smoke trails on the mysterious craft. Fravor came in for a closer look, but the thing took off at such a high speed that it vanished before his eyes. Radar picked it up a few seconds later from a distance of about 96 kilometers. That's only the beginning of the story. Many additional sightings were reported by Navy aviators who saw bizarre cubes or triangles do maneuvers no aircraft had ever before been able to. such as stopping suddenly, turning on a dime, and speeding up to 11,000 miles per hour, 17,700 kph, or more. And they were doing all this in restricted airspace, including areas set aside for training fighter jets, such as the waters off the coast of San Diego, Virginia, and Florida's Jacksonville. For decades, researchers have observed
so could it just be something that we are ourselves working on? Guys, maybe. If it's in restricted airspace, then it sounds like it's probably something of ours.
common pattern among the UAP they have been studying: power to defy gravity, rapid and unexpected speeding up, hypersonic speeds with no audible sonic booms or discernible propulsion systems, either reduced visibility or cloaking, and transmedium travel, which is the crossing between different mediums, such as air and water, without encountering any resistance or drag.
Transmedium
These
travel.
traits are the most puzzling to experts in national security. We don't have anything that works like that in our arsenal. Who
that is available to the public? No.
Who or what might they be? Some pilots have theorized that the objects were...
Well, transmedium travel, we have things that can go from... We have planes that can go from the sky to the water, not into the water, but from the sky to the water. We have cars that can drive onto water. There's a couple of custom vehicles, like RV or so, that can float, right? It goes from the land to water. So in a sense that these are transmedium vehicles, but they're absolutely not going from 12,000 miles an hour, or they're also not falling at 80,000 feet per second. That doesn't make any sense, guys. That even may not even be technology. It sounds like it's a different type of material that obviously, small amounts of it weighs a whole lot. 80,000 feet per second is not even earthling. What? It's not even earthbound. It's not earth made. It doesn't sound like, at least, guys, right? It doesn't feel like it.
Or either enemy spy planes or classified U.S. technology. According to Elizondo, however, it would be the most remarkable intelligence failure in United States history if a foreign foe had created these technologies 75 years ago, and we were still unaware they possessed them. Does that imply they came from another planet? Elizondo urges us to keep an open mind and not make hasty judgments. These automobiles could have come from deep space, the asteroids, or anywhere in between. It's possible that we're dealing with a highly developed AI that can replicate itself and instantly communicate with its own copies across great distances utilizing a quantum network. Okay. Perhaps our planet is home to an intelligent undersea civilization, and we are now technologically able to observe its members as they travel across our oceans, airways, and upper atmosphere. Do UAPs endanger the security of the country? Although they're clearly powerful enough to do harm if that were their intention, Elizondo argues, there has been no overt antagonism or hostile activity on the part of these things. He warns that sophisticated vehicles should be treated with suspicion if they are spotted flying freely in limited airspace, because they may pose a threat if they so choose. Elizondo argues that a whole-of-government approach that is collaborative and transparent is necessary to properly interpret and share observational data with the public. Does the United States government still monitor UAPs? Elizondo continued looking into UAP sightings after funding for AATIP ran out in 2012, but he gave up in 2017 after growing weary of the Pentagon's skepticism. But before he left, he declassified 3 Navy UAP films, and after that, he began to spread the news. The declassified tapes were supplied with the New York Times by Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, who is now a civilian. To convince the Defense Department to treat this national security issue seriously, he said that he had to take this action. The public outcry resulted in Congress taking notice, and the Pentagon finally admitting that Aerospace Threat Identification Program existed. The program was then revived by the Pentagon under the new moniker UAP Task Force. The military has authorized its personnel to report UAP sightings.
What's funny is I thought that the Air Force was heading that department.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who was then leader of the Intelligence Committee, requested a declassified report on UAP sightings from the Department of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence by June 2021. The remaining opposition to transparency, according to Elizondo, is limited to a very small cadre of people whose hold over the secret is rapidly eroding. Fortunately, both Congress and the DoD are prepared to treat this issue seriously. It's become a liability for the Pentagon to further a cover-up of these facts because there is enough outrage from our service members and the general public, and we must take that seriously. What is going to be reported? In order to deliver a thorough report, it will be necessary to sift through copious amounts of information, including but not limited to data, videos, photographs, telemetry, signatures collected, and an entire electromagnetic spectrum analysis. The National Archives and Records Administration houses numerous collections of documents related to UFOs or flying discs, which have been extensively researched and analyzed over the years in search of any additional evidence of extraterrestrial life. Records from the United States Air Force, USAF, that have been retired and declassified are included in the Project Blue Book papers held by the National Archives. The United States Air Force conducted these studies between 1947 and 1969. 12,618 sightings in total were recorded to Project Blue Book during this time, according to a U.S. Air Force fact sheet. The project, which had its headquarters at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, was officially terminated in 1969, with 701 of those remaining unidentified. Can UFOs be proven through these records? Other records have surfaced throughout time.
I honestly think it has potential.
As records at the National Archives have been handled and cataloged. Michael Rhodes, an archival worker, was sorting through hundreds of boxes of Air Force records just a few years ago when he noticed a doodle in the corner of a test flight report page. The drawing drew his eye because of its uncanny resemblance to the flying saucers in popular science fiction films produced at the time. Rhodes claimed in the National Archives Pieces of History blog post Flying Saucers, Popular Mechanics, and the National Archives on July 8, 2013. The crew of Japan Airlines Flight 1628 sighted a UFO while flying over Alaska, according to a number of data from the Federal Aviation Administration.
Yeah, I think if there's going to be any type of actual UAPs, they probably will be attracted to the poles, guys. I'm thinking Antarctica and obviously in the North Pole. Seriously, if they're going to exist, they're going to be up there or down there, guys.
That are available online at the National Archives. Simulated radar images and a report on the incident that ran in the Philadelphia Inquirer magazine on May 24, 1987, are both available in the National Archives. The online catalog for this collection's records includes notes taken during interviews with the 3 crew members who saw the UFO. According to Marie Brindovas, a metadata technician at the National Archives in Seattle, Washington, the papers were found as part of the Alaskan digitization effort. The Army's inquiry into flying discs is covered in a film of Major General John A. Samford's statement on flying saucers from the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. on July 31, 1952, which is among the audiovisual UFO records held by the National Archives. What proof of the existence of aliens and UFOs might be discovered at the National Archives when additional records are searched, processed, and declassified? That will have to wait. But judging by the past, it's obvious that researchers and UFO enthusiasts will keep looking for new data. The tremendous interest in the presence.
Yeah, I think the people that are seriously obsessed with anything UFO oriented, they're going to consistently be searching for new things at all times because all they're looking for is proof, right? They're like Mulder in X-Files.
Extraterrestrial life and UFOs.
They just want something tangible they can put their hands on and be like, hey, listen, you see? My life's obsession, for the most part, was accurate.
Continues to spark intense debate throughout the world. Is there a link between the rare element 115 and extraterrestrial raft? The 115th element is somewhat of a mystery. It wasn't officially recognized as a chemical element until 2016, but for decades it has been the subject of speculation about its possible links to alien technology and civilizations. Intrigued? Let's first determine what element 115 actually is before attempting to determine whether there is a relationship.
Moscovian is a synthetic element with the symbol MC and atomic number of 115. It was synthesized in 2003 by a joint Russian and American team of scientists in Russia.
As with all elements on the periodic table, the element's number corresponds to the number of protons in the element's atom.
Right.
Element 115, or moscovium, is a man-made, super-heavy element with 115 protons in its nucleus, which is 23 more protons than the heaviest element you can find in large quantities on Earth, uranium. The rare element 115, which is created one atom at a time in particle accelerators, is only present for a very brief period of time before decaying into another element.
What element
is special because it is close to a predicted island of stability, where some super heavy nuclei might have much longer lifetimes. Instead of existing for less than a second, they might exist for minutes, days, or even years. That is long enough that we might be able to use them for practical applications.
Right.
How was it created? A team of researchers led by nuclear physicist Yuri Oganessian discovered element 115 in 2003 at the Flerov Laboratory for Nuclear Reactions in Dubna, Russia. The element was then given the name moscovium because Dubna is a Moscow city. To successfully fuse the nuclei of americium-243 and calcium-48 atoms, the scientists bombarded americium-243 with calcium-48 ions that had been accelerated to about 10% of the speed of light. This process resulted in 4 atoms of moscovium, which is a super-heavy element that requires the complete fusion of 2 lighter elements. It took years for scientists to figure out some of the intricacies concerning moscovium. And it wasn't until 2018 that Berkeley Lab researchers determined the element's mass or atomic weight, which is the sum of all the protons and neutrons in an atom. They produced about 1 atom of moscovium per day, and that atom was captured by an instrument called Fiona for the identification of nuclide A, which to the untrained eye looks like a small metal bank vault.
Oh, by the way, the atomic mass is 289 U.
So far, moscovium hasn't been used for anything other than scientific research.
Like, it sounds like this super heavy metal could be something. If if we can make it function to the point, or make it last a lot longer, right, before it degrades, and we can actually build something out of it, maybe that could have been what was used with that thing that the ship or so that was dropping at 80,000 feet per second. Because I'm trying to, again, think of what could it be? What could that thing be made of that it dropped so fast? Because what is it? Right?
But they were able to nail down this crucial number by repeating the process that the first discoverers used to pin down the element. What is the aliens' connection with element 115? Although element 115 wasn't formally identified until 2003, its name has been associated with extraterrestrials, flying saucers, and other paranormal topics for decades.
Yeah, I'm telling you, their ships are probably made of it.
We're talking about the long-lived tale of Robert Bob Scott Lazar, who in 1989 revealed what he claimed to be top-secret information about element 115. Lazar claimed to be a former employee at Area 51, the well-known and highly classified section of the Nevada Test and Training Range operated by the United States Air Force, where his job was to reverse engineer crashed alien flying saucers, an element that heavy cannot be created here on Earth. The chemical must originate,
but yet we created moscovium,
from a region where naturally occurring,
unless there's something heavier,
super heavy elements are possible, according to Lazar. 9 alien spacecraft allegedly used some sort of propulsion system that harnessed the inherent power of gravity and thus utilized the characteristics of element 115 to work their
listen, that sounds real. I think if you actually do want something that could go faster than what we could actually do by like combustion propulsion, right? It would have to be something gravity based, but how do you mitigate the G-force being pulled when you stop instantly from going 11,000 miles an hour, bro? Like, how is that a thing? Like, how do you mitigate that unless they have some type of, I don't know, guys, false gravity or something? But I still don't think that they'd be able to live, right? Personally, the beings inside of there, unless it is an AI like scout ship or something, guys, right? Keep in mind, this is all theoretical. I'm just going to play around with the theories as much as I possibly can. I'm not trying to make it too science fiction, but it does feel like it could be a thing. It would have to be a gravity-based propulsion system. Yeah. it's unlimited. You get what I'm saying here, guys?
Technological wizardry, according
Maybe
to
that's what
Lazar,
we're missing.
who claimed to have seen evidence
from traveling at the speed of light.
of anti-gravity propulsion technologies. The majority of his assertions have never been completely refuted, as several sources have noted, and the government doesn't acknowledge the employment of anyone who has worked at Area 51.
Right.
Fundamental science continues to refute his statements, nonetheless. No, the assertions of Bob Lazar have nothing to do with this discovery, stated Gates.
Okay.
Presently, all the created atoms of element 115 have decayed way too fast to be used to fuel UFOs. For the people who are immersed in these advancements on a daily basis, that's more than enough. After all, moscovium is an amazing element. Gates said that it is a sign that we're pushing the limits of what we know about the universe. So instead of the excitement about little green men and incredible spacecraft, we're left with real, tangible, and equally thrilling science. We have made over 100 atoms of element 115 and are starting to understand its nuclear and chemical properties because element 115 is unique in that we can create it more easily than some lighter elements like element 112 or element 113. Normally, as we add more protons, it gets harder to create a new element, but this trend is broken around element 115. However, 115 is suspected to have mostly rapid decay isotopes, just as the gold has 37 different isotopes and only one is stable. Therefore, hopefully in the future, we will on a version with a longer half-life, even if it only ends up being a few atoms of it. Alternatively, the aliens may simply prefer to observe life in a closed system, or they may have ethical reasons for not interfering in our technological and cultural progress.
Yeah, guys, I mean, it would have to be something similar to that, right? I mean, if they are so advanced, we're children to them, right? I mean, there have been multiple episodes of like Stargate that reference this very specific thing. Do you give your technology to a lesser society? Do you? Never. You never do that. Why? Because they're just going to use it for internal kerfuffles, bro.
To the Prime Directive from Star Trek,
destroy themselves.
A more sinister interpretation can be found in Ball's laboratory hypothesis. The aliens don't talk to us because we're part of an experiment they're conducting. In the end, it is impossible to predict the objectives and convictions of a fictitious advanced civilization.
Right.
Thanks for watching another episode of Voyager. All
right, guys, so the overall idea of this year, I really didn't find any evidence that the Pentagon is hiding from us. It's cool to find out that they've been working on and they found a new element that I've never encountered, right? So definitely I would like to probably dig into that now. I will, actually, to see if there are any practical applications. He said something about they're using it for, they could use it to power some type of ship or something. Okay, I would prefer it, being that it's metal, right? It's classed as a metal. I would prefer it to be for us to build something with it, right? But obviously, nothing that we can kind of make on Earth can even push a device or any type of vehicle that large and heavy, most likely, because it's going to be extremely heavy by the looks of it. At least if you can have multiple people in it, it's going to be extremely heavy. So I don't know what we can actually do for propulsion. We are not to the point where we can do anything gravity based at all. So what do we do? Right. But listen, let me know in the comments on the next topic we should be checking out, and I will get into that as soon as I possibly can. All right. Then listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.